Check. Sure.
Yeah, can hear you. I'm seeing for the, I'm checking with the, good.
Hi, Mobile. Please confirm if you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you.
But we are going to start. Can you just please move closer to the front so when people come in, they don't have to disturb the live streaming. Yeah, and Aya will literally start the program. Yeah. So when people come in, I don't want them to disturb the. It's very on brand, man.
Totally on brand. Fasa. Yeah. And the red box is locked. Yes, money in the red box. Sure. Yeah, tell him I'm not busy. I'm in a meeting. Ask him to come back just now. Yeah, just come back. Take the look. Okay, sure.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, you guys make me feel old. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, we're about to kick off on the World Franchise Day, or the International World Franchise Day. And as we proceed, I believe the guests will be making their way in. But just to kick off in the meantime, I will be doing the welcome address for the World Franchise Day. And my name is Ayabulela Njingolo, and I am the current chairperson of the Franchise Association of South Africa. And I come today wearing two hats, one as the chairperson and one as an employee of our wonderful sponsor, Fasa, representing the wholesale, retail, and franchise division of the bank. To kick off into it, just to give you a brief breakdown and give you a perspective on what franchising is, where we are standing, what the performance is looking like, and what makes us so relevant. World Franchise Day is observed annually on 10 June. It is a global moment to recognize franchising as one of the most powerful, proven models of inclusive economic growth. In South Africa, the franchise sector contributes an approximate 900 billion annually to national economy, accounts for roughly 12.5% of the GDP, employs hundreds of thousands of South Africans across sectors from food service to the financial sector, is governed and represented by Fasa, the Franchise Association of South Africa. The World Franchise Day carries additional weight and always falls during Youth Month, which is June. And as you may see, I fall into that category. I'm here to represent the youth in business, youth in the banking sector, youth in franchising, youth in retail, wholesale, and in entrepreneurship. It is amplifying the conversation around young entrepreneurs, women in business, and economic inclusion through formal business models. Every speaker at today's event is part of that conversation, either as a business owner, a board director, a financial partner, or a community builder. They do not just represent franchising. They are franchising in South Africa. And just a quick message to all that are here today, including the speakers. Your presence here today is not ceremonial. Every person in this room is watching someone who has walked the path or is being invited to walk it. Speak from your experience. Be honest about the journey. The World Franchising Day is most powerful when it is personal. And I'd like to say thank you for that. And I'll be introducing Tulani, who will be our MC, as well as our moderator today in our panel discussions. I hope today is quite fruitful and knowledgeable for all. And thank you, and welcome to Fasa Connects.
A very good morning to everyone. Warm welcome. And thank you, Aya, for a very well done presentation. So Aya is saying he is shy. He's not comfortable in doing the moderation. So I was wondering if he's a church member or anything, but Chair, we thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today we are celebrating, or we are acknowledging World Franchise Day. So franchising has always been acknowledged and has always been celebrated as one of the safest way or safer ways to be in business, because you are said to be in business for yourself, but you're not in business by yourself. So as we acknowledge and we celebrate the day today, there's many issues that I suppose we're going to be discussing and we're going to be looking into. What was one of the the plans that I was hoping we'd be able to do today was to celebrate one of ours. So years ago, when I was younger, working for British Petroleum, we had a program called the Entrepreneurship Development Program. So the idea was we invite people from the community that is aspiring to be franchisees, and out of that, we managed to identify, support, and get one of the greatest, I think one of the most successful franchisees in the petroleum sector. His name is Swami Lomata. So I'm going to use him as an example of what success looks like when an opportunity meets a person who is ready, individual, the entrepreneur. When an opportunity then meets a franchisor who's ready to support the person. And Swami today probably has, I don't know, more than 10 franchise operations, and he's a resounding success. So I think today is a day that we are acknowledging and we are looking and exploring at how it is that we can actually emulate or maybe replicate what is one. So with the support of our host, our APSA, and we are grateful for having us today. We're going to have a panel, and the panel is going to help us drive the conversation. So James, Mr. Noble, is going to be one of the people that will be sharing and imparting knowledge and information regarding where we are, where we've been, but most importantly, how do we take this journey forward successfully. James, welcome.
I'm going to kick off in a formal way, and then I'm going to interrupt myself, and then I'll go back into the formal procedure or proceedings. So first of all, good day, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, business leaders, franchisors, franchisees, entrepreneurs, and partners in South. I think, and to interrupt myself, I just want to, the people that know me know that I don't like working from scripts, and that I like to do stuff unscripted. And as you could see already this morning, the youth amongst us, they're using all the technology to address yourself. I'm still old school, so I work from my script. And I was also told that I must stick to this script to deliver the correct message this morning. But I think also just before we kick off, a big thank you from my side for Charmaine on the APSA side for putting this together today, and for the opportunity to speak to our networks and to the industry as franchising in South Africa, but not just South Africa, but beyond the borders into the rest of Africa as well. I would also like to thank Aya and Jelani. You will miss Fred here today. I don't know if you all know Fred has been hospitalized earlier this week. He's carrying the franchise baton in South Africa for us, and our thoughts and prayers are with Fred, and we hope a speedy recovery so that he can continue doing that for the franchising industry. So there were some short notice changes to the lineup, and thank you to Jelani also for stepping in and being the MC that Fred would have covered for us. So let's get back to the formal part of my introduction here today. So yeah, just bear with me as I read through the speech, and I think I want to read through this because there are important elements that we want to touch and also address, and then also highlight and the opportunities of franchising in South Africa, but also globally. So today, as we mark World Franchise Day, we're showing a global movement that celebrates not just a business model, but a powerful platform for opportunity, resilience, and shared prosperity. Around the world, this day shines a light on the people behind franchise businesses and on the positive role franchising plays in local communities. Here in South Africa, that message carries particular weight. We gather at a time when our country continues to wrestle with familiar and urgent challenges. Unemployment, inequality, slow growth, and the pressing need to expand meaningful economic participation. In that context, franchising is not a side story in the South African economy. It is part of the answer. And Aya alluded to this. According to recent industry reporting from the Franchise Association of South Africa, and ABSA was part of that survey that was done, South Africa has over 700 franchise systems across 14 different sectors, with over 60,000 franchisees contributing roughly 12.5% to 15% to our country's GDP, and directly employing over 500,000 people. Those are not just statistics. They represent livelihoods, family supported, skills transferred, and businesses built in communities across our nation. What makes franchising so relevant to South Africa is that it sits in the intersection of entrepreneurship and support. It enables people to go into business for themselves, but not by themselves. In a country where many aspiring entrepreneurs have the drive, the ideas and determination, but often lack access to systems, mentorship, market credibility, and operational know-how, the franchise model can lower barriers and improve the odds of success. That matters deeply in the South African context. We do not simply need more businesses. We need more sustainable businesses. We need enterprises that can survive difficult economic cycles, and I think the franchise industry has proven itself over the years. Create jobs beyond the founder, maintain standards, and build trust with customers. Franchising, when done ethically and inclusively, can do exactly that. It also offers something else South Africa needs: replication of success. Too often we celebrate isolated business breakthrough without finding what to scale them responsibly. A strong franchise model allows a proven concept to move from one neighborhood to another, from one town to another, and from one province to another, while creating ownership opportunities and local employment along the way. And let us be clear, the South African franchise story is not only about large brands in major urban centers. The future of franchising in our country must also be about inclusion. It must be about opening doors for black entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, young people, and business owners in townships and peri-urban economies. It must be about extending the reach of structured business support into spaces where talent and ambition are abundant, but capital and formal access are often limited. These are encouraging signs. Industry reporting points to positive shifts in ownership diversity, with increased participation by previously disadvantaged groups in the franchise sector. That progress matters because growth without inclusion is fragile, and economic expansion without broader ownership cannot deliver the future South Africa needs. At the same time, we must be honest about the work that is still ahead. Access to finance remains a major obstacle for many emerging entrepreneurs. Rising costs, pressure on consumers, infrastructure challenges, and administrative complexity all affect business confidence and business survival. If franchising is to fulfill its potential in South Africa, it cannot succeed on brand strength alone. It needs an enabling ecosystem, and that is where committed partnerships become essential. In that regard, institutions like ABSA have an important role to play. As a leading pan-African financial institution and bank of the entrepreneur, Absa supports franchising not only in South Africa, but across the continent where it has a presence. By combining access to finance with business banking capability, enterprise development support, and regional connectivity. Through its work with entrepreneurs and SMEs, Absa helps businesses move from ambition to execution by providing funding solutions, business development support, market access opportunities, and the kind of practical financial partnerships that growing franchise systems and franchisees needs. And Absa, because operates across multiple African markets, it's also well placed to support businesses that want to expand beyond one country, connect value chains, and grow with greater confidence across borders. That wider ecosystem requires partnership. It requires franchisors who are committed to fair and ethical growth. It requires financiers who understand the model and can develop funding pathways to credible new entrants. It requires public sector partners willing to reduce friction, support enterprise development, and recognize franchising as a practical vehicle for job creation, skills development, and local economic activation. It is this kind of joined-up thinking that will unlock the next phase of franchise growth in South Africa and beyond. World Franchise Day also gives us an opportunity to reframe how people think about franchisees. A franchisee is not simply an operator of someone else's brand. A franchisee is a local employer, a community investor, a mentor to staff, a customer service leader, and often a first mover in bringing quality products and reliable services to an area. Franchisees are local business owners. Success is deeply tied to communities in which they live and work. In South Africa, that community role is especially important because businesses do not operate in isolation from social realities. They operate in communities where young people are searching for work, where where hustles and under pressure, and where local economic anchors matter. Every outlet that creates jobs, trains staff, pays suppliers, and serves customers with consistency contributes to stability and dignity in a way that goes far beyond its turnover. So today we should celebrate the brand, yes, but even more, we should celebrate the people. The founder who built the concept worth replicating, the franchisee who took a calculated risk, the employee who started in an entry-level role and grew into management, the supplier whose own business grew because the franchise network expanded, and the customer who trusts keep the entire value chain alive. We should also use this day to challenge ourselves. How do we make franchising more accessible? How do we unlock township-based growth opportunities without compromising standards? How do we design funding models that support first-time franchisees? How do we promote ethical franchising, transparent partnerships, and long-term value creation instead of short-term expansion? These are not theoretical questions. They are central to building a franchise sector that truly reflects the promise of our democracy. My belief is simple. South Africa has the entrepreneurial energy, the market need, and the lived resilience to build one of the most dynamic franchise ecosystems on this continent. But that future will depend on whether we choose expansion with purpose, growth with inclusion, and commercial success with social impact. As we celebrate World Franchise Day, let us not commit ourselves to a bigger vision. Let us commit ourselves to a bigger vision. Let us see franchising not merely as a route to profit, but as a route to participation. Not merely as a method of scaling brands, but as a means of scaling opportunity. Not merely as a commercial model, but as a practical tool for building a more inclusive, more enterprising, and more resilient South Africa, and indeed a stronger Africa. To the franchisors in the room, keep investing in your people, your systems, and your franchisees. To the franchisees, thank you for carrying the brands into communities with courage, discipline, and determination. The policymakers, funders, and business leaders, let us work together to unlock the next generation of franchise growth in South Africa. And to every aspiring entrepreneur listening today, there is a place for your ambition in this story. On this World Franchise Day, may we celebrate what has been built, strength that is working, and boldly expand what is possible here in South Africa and across the African continent. And in a true Absa fashion, your story matters. Thank you.
Thank you, James. The reality is the country is where it is, and it is requiring more solutions and more of what you guys are doing and what Fasa actually stands for to actually get the work done the way it's done. So, as you have said, franchising is being in business for yourself but not by yourself. And the importance of ethical franchising is actually represented through the Fasa work. And it is something that I think needs to be focused on. Because I had an interview the other day and I was asked, why do franchise solutions fail? Right now there is a very uncomfortable story that is making the rounds about one of the retailers said to not be treating the franchisees correctly. Ethical franchising is something that I believe we shouldn't be compromising on. Because the standards that we set is basically what will actually get us to where we are supposed to move into. So, James, your team, and all those that are actually supporting the industry, it is of that importance that we demonstrate that this investment is actually worth doing and it is worth supporting. 64% is said to be the unemployed people in the country. And I think it is more of the new solutions that needs to be welcomed and supported. And it's only through that that we'll be able to stand a chance of reducing the unemployment rates. I was looking at the bike industry, delivery bikes, and that industry is actually growing quite well. And I find it disturbing that the majority of the participants are the non-South Africans, and we should actually be possibly looking intentionally and pushing our own to basically be part of that. And that's where I think we will be able to reduce the rate of unemployment. So I believe we're going to be moving to a video. Is that set? Video? So there isn't. So we're moving on to the panel. So let's get the panel joining us on the stage. I believe we've got Akona. All right. Not here. Maybe before we actually move on to that, let's have a little bit of a conversation. In your words, what is franchising mean to you today?
Franchising to me means the opportunity for the future. An opportunity to grow our economy, an opportunity to create jobs, an opportunity to innovate, an opportunity to be the best version of who you are. And not only grow an economy, but grow ourselves. I think that many times people are scared to stretch, to go out there into the market, to face on challenges, and to be confident in looking at problems that we as society are facing and saying, we can fix it, we can unpack.
So I know that you're part of Absa. You're actually from Sasol. So in your opinion, what needs to change for the future of South Africa to look better through franchising?
I think for us, it's more about breaking barriers. And I think that's quite important. I think if we're looking at our future and how we can make actually franchising a success, is how do we break barriers, particularly when it comes to financing. Because most of the time, and the reason why franchising fails, or there is a lack of participation in franchising, is because of financing. So I think that is one of the key things that we really need to look at.
So I'm actually was about to go to our government person. In terms of regulation, I will ask. Regulation plays a huge part in franchising. In your view, you come from the government department, what Department of Trade and Industry, what needs to change in your opinion to actually get us there? She's mentioned breaking barriers. Regulation-wise, have we done the work? I remember we launched the Competitions Commission, and at the time we participated and we made franchising part of that. So what are you guys doing that is actually going to be aiding and changing the landscape from the regulation perspective?
Thank you. From the Department of Trade and Industry, I'm from the consumer law background. So looking at franchise today and regulatory side space, I think compliance is what is more important when the franchises are in place. So to break the barriers, the most important thing is awareness, speaking to the people. People need to know what is happening, what is going in and out of that particular businesses. Looking at the consumer side, that's one of the most important things that are needed. People need to know exactly the disclosure of information. They need to know everything that is in there. Then the compliance is one of the most important things. If there's any information that is hidden, we'll see most franchises or businesses collapsing because during the contracts and everything, not those fine print things, people don't know what is happening there. So we need that method where now information will be disclosed and then people go there knowing exactly what to expect. Thank you.
Compliance is quite key in doing this. So let's move on to the panel and get the panel to actually help us with that. So I know you had said you don't want to do that. Can I get you to do it?
Good morning, everyone. It's me again, unfortunately. No, it's jokes. Okay, so some of our panelists have not arrived as of yet, but in the interim, we will just be doing a quick insight on what franchising means to us, as Tulani has mentioned, and I will call through some of our panelists that are currently here, which I will be joining in the discussion along with James. And then we will just have a quick discussion in terms of where is franchising at the moment, what's currently happening, and where are the opportunities sitting for the greater part of the context of South Africa. I touched on a very vital point, seeing that we're celebrating in the month of June, being Youth Month. This is a great opportunity to get this network out to the public and ensure that the upcoming generations are aware of exactly what's happening in the different industries of South Africa. And the unfortunate reality is that a lot of us don't know what franchising is besides the big brands. For the sake of us not being sponsored by those brands, I'm not going to mention them, but I think some of us can name a few on the top of our heads. But just to quickly jump into it, I would like to get into the introduction of our panelists. So currently we have Mr. Jeremy from Wayback Burger. He's growing through franchising, but being a franchisor is a very different responsibility to being a business owner. What did you know about the responsibility and when you started? Please, sir, make your way up to the panel. Thank you. And then we've got our second panelist being Bulelani. Bulelani, as you may know, has been making the rounds and has been making all the right noises when it comes to township development, township entrepreneurship, and getting the right. Oh, sorry.
He's a ninja. He's a ninja.
Sorry about that, Bulelani.
Come sit here by me. It's safe.
I wish I fell because Absa would pay me.
No. Not today. And I would like to introduce the man himself, Mr. James Noble, our head of wholesale retail franchise for the Absa brand. And this man has, for the past almost 30 years, championed franchising throughout South Africa and has represented Absa continuously. So when they say a man is loyal, they talk about James. You know, when I grow up, I want to be like you, sir. And then I would like to have Mr. Bulelani. Would you mind stepping in for us in the meantime as one of the panelists? And then we can take it from there. Perfect.
1, 2.
So before we get into it and dive into some of the brands you guys represent, and some of the initiatives that are currently rolling out with your businesses, coming from a banking perspective, consulting perspective, as well as from an actual franchisee perspective, you guys are giving us pretty much an open view or a wide cost of experience, insights, and also some of the grit that it takes to get into business, what it takes to finance those kind of businesses, what it takes to run those businesses at the end of the day, and knowing to understand or learning to understand your customers, your service providers, and the market that you guys are trying to penetrate and capture all at once. So just before we get into the discussion, I've just got a couple of opening questions there, whereby we can just quickly touch on who you guys are, what does it mean to be in franchising, and what is the significance of today from your perspective. And just to give you a little bit of insight, this is the second World Franchise Day that we're currently hosting, not only from a South African perspective, but internationally. So I do believe we're running the same program throughout Canada, Las Vegas, and so forth, as some of the associations that are currently falling within the World Franchise Organization. So starting off, Mr. Jeremy, again, how are you, sir?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. There we are.
No, thank you, sir. Just a quick one. You know, I did touch on the question initially when we had started, and I'm going to say it again, just so that we can get a more clear perspective from the side, what it is from a person who's in the industry, who knows what the efforts it takes to get into that business, the struggles, the pitfalls, the pros and the cons. We know Weibuck burgers. The term was very new to me initially when Fred had introduced it to me, until I did a bit of my research, and I was like, okay, this is a good brand. The question is, do you know your market? You know, are you placed in the right position? What does it take to set up that kind of business? What does it mean to be in a position where you are servicing the community? Not only as a business owner, but also as a participant of that same market and community. The brand is growing through franchising, but being franchisor is a very different responsibility to being a business owner. What did you know about the responsibility when you started, sir?
I see you've asked me many questions. Yes, good morning. My name is Jeremy. Just to reiterate, I do come from a brand called Weibuck Burgers. Yes, I thank God that I'm here this morning. Going through a tough economic time like COVID wasn't easy. And it forced me to go the long way round. The long way round meant that I needed to be flexible. Apparently the stages move as well. Am I on camera? Is this you know, I'm from a generation where if there's no pictures, it didn't happen, eh? So what happened before COVID was that I was speaking to the American guys, and the American guys, if you don't know, Wayback Burgers is an American brand, and I am the master franchisee for Southern Africa. And they said to me, you need to open up a restaurant. And I looked on TV and people were buying toilet paper. And I said, I need to open a restaurant. And then, CNN, you look again and you're seeing, our governments are not responding the same to this issue. I know there's Department of Trade. They were looking at us very angrily, and the American government was seemed to be a bit more lax around the issue. And so I decided, don't worry, I'm getting somewhere. I decided that I'm going to open a food truck instead of opening up a restaurant. And the reason I did that was because I knew that if we went on a total shutdown, I would be able to exit the market without losing my boots. And I think as a young black, I don't know if I qualify as young still, according to the. I'm definitely black, but I don't know if I qualify still as young. I mean, I just make it in. I didn't have the massive amounts of money that other massive companies have. We know that the brands that are out there, huge houses that have billions of rand, and they basically weathered the storm. And I didn't have that money, so I had to innovate. I had to design something that could access the market and come out, and go into the market and come out. And then you asked me a question. So tell me, do you know about the market? This food truck began to show me. I was going to Chilli Lane down the road, night markets. I knew nothing about night markets. I knew nothing about markets in general, but I knew I had to adapt. And I went to Chilli Lane, and I found the customers, and I found what they like. And I knew, now I know, you go there before Lent. Don't expect to sell any beef. There was one night I got there, I said, how many burgers did we sell? They said, nothing. I said, what's going on here? They said, no, it's Lent. Everybody's Catholic. Nobody eats meat. And I only had four veggie burgers in the truck. You get to know your markets. You get to know South Africa. You introduce a boerewors roll. For those of us internationally who don't know what boerewors is, well, good luck. You'll have to come and visit Wayback Burgers. So we did a lot of market research and marketing that allowed us to understand our environment and going to different places in different businesses. Even a few weeks ago, I was at BP, British Petroleum. I parked my truck outside a petrol station or a gas station, and I just decided to do it. Along with Franchise South Africa, we got other brands like Legends Barbers and a car wash brand to come along with us. And so you then create friends. And what friends do is they help you in the market to network. And, that also counts for much. So I'd like to thank, before I go any further, I'd like to thank everyone that is here today. I'd like to thank, I did thank God. I'd like to thank my parents for being here. I'd like to thank Franchise South Africa, wherever they are. I'd like to thank Absa Bank. Because without your if you take your overdraft away from me today, look how they're smiling, they know. If you take that overdraft today, I'm gone. So I'd like to thank them. Thank them for making my story matter.
No, thank you so much for that, Jeremy. Please give him a round of applause. It's funny that you say Absa and you look at me in this context. I don't represent Absa. but for the interest of the association, just to let you know, I'm here as a part of you guys, as a part of the support system that you guys need. It's just fortunate that I understand the financial modeling that comes with running your businesses, setting them up, rolling them up, and also trying to get them to be diversified from that small truck that you were using at the time, the food truck, to having stores. That's the story we want to hear. That's what we want to get exposed to. Guys, it's not about getting a big business. You can't just walk in and pick up a pair of spar and say, look, I want this business, I've got 100 rand, let's make it happen. It's not happening. And the reality of it is that a lot of people are not aware of that. You know, one moment there's an empty space, the next thing you know, there's a brand new shopping center in place, there's new brands, there's new businesses. But no one sees or no one shares the story of getting into those spaces. And this is why we are having this day, just to give you insights of saying, guys, you don't have to just be a lawyer, you don't have to just be a doctor, and in this case, you don't have to be just an accountant. You can actually be an entrepreneur and actually make it work. And make it work for you and the community that you serve. Thank you so much, Jody. And now to move on to our next panelist, Mr. Bulelani. So, Fasa's transformation mandate is not just words on paper. What is the one specific thing Fasa is doing right now to bring more township business into the formal franchise sector?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think for me it's a couple, right? I mean, I think you think about who knew that a barber could win Entrepreneur of the Year, you know? And I think it goes without saying in the context of South Africa's unemployment numbers that you spoke about, that artisanal businesses that are founded with individuals or young individuals driven, I guess, being pushed towards developing and harnessing their artisanal skills, aggregating that through online tools to then acquire customers and then systematically formalizing that into actual businesses will consistently put them in a pool of the market where they're able to grow those businesses but are consistently making money. And then I think the franchising caveat in this particular case is, so the franchising caveat in this particular case is that now you're able to then redistribute and aggregate it across the board through clear systems. And I think for us, I think the relationship with Fasa really for us is having looked at a number of young individuals who are running businesses across the board in townships and various communities, doing exceptionally well in those communities and finding that there are markets in other spaces, but they just don't know how to. And I think that through that relationship, we are then seeking to, I think most importantly, you know, ensure that these young individuals in township and rural communities across the country can, I think, tomorrow be a Sheldon or whoever, right, that is able to scold, or a Jeremy, right, that is able to scale their businesses across because the opportunity is there. But I think for me, the biggest thing is that if the information is not aggregated, because I think at the very heart of it really for me is information. Beyond everything else that we talk about is information. I think one of the ladies earlier on spoke about compliance being a need, but I think at the end of the day, the individual doesn't see it in that sense. It's not their problem, it becomes your problem. Because I think it's in the understanding or misunderstanding of the market in the lay. So I think for me, those are some of the concerted efforts I've seen, but also from an aggressive standpoint, this is the vantage point that will be then going into the markets from the next couple of months all the way through to the various parts. Because I think how we then operate is that we've got a nationwide network of over 130,000 township and micro enterprises across the country that we've worked with over the past 11 years. And I think the biggest thing that we have seen is that to say whatever we've done is great, but it then only serves 1% of the information needed for them to scale. Then the biggest question for us has always been, who are all the right type of partners that you can partner with, that they can open them up to different worlds of thinking, and also different worlds of trading, different worlds of other markets as well. And then we then almost then play that aggregator role within those various spaces, so that you then hold on to a market, which is why we never say they are ours or they are our members. No, people we've worked with, and we are seeking to then paddle and aggregate information to, so that they can then scale and grow.
No, thank you for that. And I think, just to touch on that point, seeing how franchising and seeing how big business has started to take a shift into the township market goes to show you how much that environment has been neglected up until recently. And I think the biggest shock for everyone was when COVID had hit the country and the world, where now people had to find all sorts of opportunities from nothing to try and survive. And the township, I must say, grew, if not in terms of economy, based off that model. And now big businesses, like you mentioned, was already or initially focusing on the 1% who had access to that knowledge. And now we've seen that massive shift where we have massive landlords coming to the township, establishing shopping centers. I mean, it started in Maponya Mall, and it started becoming a trend, going into Jabulani, going into all sorts, Tembisa more. And you're seeing now these businesses are trying to service those communities, and I must say, sir, I love your work. I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate the partnership that you have not only with Fasa, but all the other stakeholders that come to the table to say, guys, how do we add more value to rolling out these initiatives? How do we get the entrepreneur that's out of the corner to scale up his business and service not just only his tiny community or his street, but rather service the entire block? How do we get additional sites? And I've seen that. I mean, you're quite prevalent in the socials, and it's motivational to see such activities. Now it's just a matter of getting it in front of the right crowds, in front of the people that are hungry for those opportunities, keen to learn, keen to build their own businesses and not just rely on the professional space that everybody seems to want to gravitate to. Look, I know suits are nice, guys, but I'd rather be in shorts every day. It's a lot better that way because then it allows for flexibility and it allows for us to execute a lot sooner and quicker. Without that restraint of, oh, shucks, I got my shoes dirty, quickly, let's stop the operation. No, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So this is where now the partnership with Fasa and any township economy, we see value, and we're trying to stay in the forefront of that so that it's not dominated or monopolized by one individual sector, but giving the opportunity to those who are willing to participate in that environment. Thank you, Bulelani.
Just feeding off Jeremy's energy.
You couldn't leave that one.
And moving on to the next panelist, Mr. James.
James?
Absa has made a strategic commitment to this sector through its partnership with Fasa. What does the partnership look like in real time for someone sitting in this room who wants to own a franchise?
Thank you, Aya. Yeah, I don't know. I battled to get Aya to call me on my name. It's always Mr. James, Mr. Noble. And I remember I was 25 years old when I started at Absa in franchising. We were actually the team that started franchising, and I still went to the military. And so when someone older than you speak to you, you stand up, and literally on attention. And I used to call all my managers also Meneer and Sir and so forth. But hopefully we will get this right over time. Yeah, I think when it comes to the partnership that we have with Fasa, it's not one that just started a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years ago. Ever since I can remember, 29 years ago, we were already in a partnership with the Franchise Association. We were always collaborating very closely with the association. And we were even at one stage so strict that if a franchisor does not belong to the Franchise Association, we as a bank will not finance them because what they are standing for. I think the partnership from a banking perspective is also an opportunity to create access to markets from a banking perspective and to deal with credible franchisors. But I think it's also an opportunity for us to get our message out there as a bank, that we are the bank of the entrepreneur, that we are a bank that finance and support franchisees in South Africa. And over the years, we have funded and supported thousands and thousands and thousands of franchisees. And I think with the partnership with the Franchise Association, we obviously have seen a lot of success stories as well. I often say that I think I've made so many millionaires or people millionaires, more than maybe what the Lotto has done, and success stories that continues for years. And I think, yeah, again, we couldn't have done that without the role that the Franchise Association has to play or plays in South Africa, and also allowing us to partner with them with a lot of the events in getting the message out there that franchising is a great way of stepping into the business world, much more safer than what it is if you want to try something on your own.
No, thank you for that, James. And touching on that, you know, you mentioned that for the past, 25 years, Fasa has been a part of APSA's rollout in terms of growing the franchising sector. And it's quite interesting to see that how the competition has started to try and latch onto that and replicate what is currently being done. And the reality is more brands are coming up with different needs and different requirements. And we are forever transforming and adjusting in accordance to that. And the partnership is duly noted. I mean, we're at APSA now as Fasa. You tend to be at every event that Fasa currently is hosting and try to support in terms of getting the brand out there, getting the information that needs to be out to the relevant individuals looking to get into the space. As we all know, guys, owning a business is never easy. As I'm sure majority of you are parents in some shape or form. It's like raising a child, you know. You have a stage where the first year is just pure loss. And in the case of an infant, it's just eating, crying, and, you know, the number 2. And you take it as it comes, with a smile, with a frown, but it keeps moving, it keeps growing, and eventually gets to that stage where it starts paying you back. And franchising is the model very similar to that, but instead of 18 years, it takes about 3 to 5 years. So, guys, think wisely before you make more babies. Now moving on to Tulani. I got wind of Mr. Tulani, when was it, last year? Fred introduced me to him and he's like, no, he's a consultant. He dabbles within franchising. And just to give you a high level perspective on things, this gentleman was once the chairperson as well. So you can see, it's only the short gents that are winning. But irrespective of that, Tulani, please share with us not only your industry insights, but what you're currently busy with. What are you doing to add more value to the franchising sector? Where's the core focus? Where are the biggest growths that are coming in from franchising? And what does it mean to be a part of Fasa and understanding what Fasa is doing in the context of South Africa?
Thank you, Aya. So, having been involved with the sector, having been part of Fasa for as long as one has, the importance of support for me is great. So what I then started asking myself was, what's the best way to contribute to the sector? Having been part of petroleum, I saw a number of people going in and they were not staying, and the question was, what is going wrong? I remember at one stage we interviewed a guy who was from PwC, an accountant. So when we were interviewing him, I bothered nothing about financials. He knows financials. He failed because of that. So the fact that you are an accountant actually for me showed that there is more that is required. But what I then started noticing is that those that go in and they'll succeed, they go and they hide because it's called failure. Whereas we should be actually extracting and looking and finding out what is it that went wrong that could have been prevented. One of the sad stories actually, we have a site in BP Kailami, working for BP. As we were going into COVID, it collapsed. And there I was looking after the area, and the question I asked myself, how could this have been? And it was all around looking at the financials and understanding what is going on. So what I then started realizing is that there is a gap between James releasing funding and something going wrong, which is now observing and understanding what is the franchisee doing. So it's all around support. So I then went in and said to myself, okay, let's look at the way to capture those, which is where Let's Franchise, which is what I started doing, was around educating, sharing of information, and getting those stories out. So over time, there's been a lot that is going on, and brand has transformed to what it is now in Soho. And we are working with spazas. Nice. We're looking at how best the spaza shops or the spaza community can be supported. And one of the very key things that we have found, there's about 500 of them that are coming on board, is seeing how we can close the gap end to end and getting them to be as competent as they can be. So again, it's really around getting the right people in place and getting the right support in place. So all that we are looking at really, and through the support that Fasa has, is getting the support in place and getting the people the right tools that they need to get the job done. So all that I'm thinking right now is important is we need to be intentionally looking for new concepts. Years ago, we had the Emerging Franchisor Development Program that I believe needs to be resuscitated. We need to be looking at giving Jeremy more capable and more sustainable franchisees, and all that happens is really through support. So I think really the intention now should be around getting the information out and for the people to know exactly where to go and how to use the resources correctly. So collaboration, I don't think there's anything better than that. So APSA being there, the regulators being there, and just needs to be on board, ensuring that the support goes in. I look at the celebrations that we do when the kids are graduating out of varsity, and I think the message should be an entrepreneur. I met one young gentleman, and he told me that he graduated and he majored in entrepreneurship. I was so impressed. Yes. And he told me he's unemployed. So
You should
really,
send him to Wayback.
it's education, because if you did entrepreneurship at school, how are you unemployed? So it's education, it is support, and sharing those stories of success and also the stories of failure, because it's in those stories that we're going to be able to learn what we need to focus on and what we need to try and avoid.
No, absolutely, Tulani, you know, and funny that you say that. You can study something and get a master's and be great at it, and then still step into the real world and fumble. And that's the reality of business. So I agree with you. You can study the right thing and still not make it work. But in the same breath, I can safely say that as much as that individual might have had access to set up a structure, set up a business, but they didn't have access to the right information. And that's the most vital thing when it comes to franchising, because franchising runs across all sectors, all industries. And it's a matter of finding which industry business. And in saying that, guys, it means you will wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning to go check up on your business and still come back home and not feel that pinch. Yes, you will be exhausted, but the reality is that your business is thriving, your business is moving. It might not be giving you the millions in the beginning, but it's got your attention for it to move in the right direction. And in that being said, how do we now come together as the association and identify those individuals and say, you know what, you've got a keen interest in this industry, how do we build on that? How do we unpack the pitfalls and see where we address those gaps that could potentially make this individual some of the greatest success stories when it comes to franchising in this country? But thank you for that tonight.
But I think also, if I may add on the passion that I think a person needs to have, which connects to what you are doing. So what I found is that people, when they make inquiries from me, is which franchise will give me money fast? I say it's bankruptcy. So when you interview, you engage in a person that, so how much are you going to be making? What's going to be happening? Now I'll come in around 12 and I'll just check how things are going. And the question I've always asked, so if I gave you 10 million rands today, and I asked you to just bury it somewhere where the business is, and then go over to, there was a news cafe then, go to wherever and you go chill, would you be able to relax knowing there's this 10 million rands buried there? They said no. Because that is, for me, what happens when you have a business and you are not there and you're living it for people to do what they please. One example that I have actually comes from one of the sites in Guamash. The petrol attendant had a card and he was taking the cash, putting it in his pocket. Transact, confirm the transaction, gives it to the cashier and it's closed, and he goes and he nullifies the transaction on the pay point. It took the franchisee a while because banking only takes how long for the monies to get there? 600,000 rands later, money was gone. So the people that work for you as a franchisee actually know the business better than you do, which is why you need to be there. So the fastest way to make money in the franchise business is really to be there and to be present. So I really encourage people when you're going in there, it is really the time that you are investing, because that is the future, and that's really needs to be put in to say you're not going to be putting the money and just going to chill at home and think it's going to work.
No, thank you for that. But on that point, seeing that you're one of the more permanent or prominent consultants within the franchising sector, the question I pose to you now is, looking at the gap between the investor, the investee, and now the person trying to get into the franchising sector. The financing journey for first-generation franchise owners is one of the most common barriers we hear about. Walk us through yours, through those stories that you've had to deal with. I appreciate you giving us the cons of also potentially getting into the space of franchising, which a lot of individuals tend to sweep under the carpet. But the reality is, anybody that's trying to get into business needs to get a holistic perspective before they make a judgment call on what is the next step and the way to move forward. And what worked, what didn't, you know? And what do you wish had existed at that point in time during these scenarios?
I think even now the gap is still really around helping the franchisee deliver on what they're supposed to deliver. There's a tool that we are working on, we're calling it a smart business plan, and I hope I won't be punished for this. So we are saying that the business plan that Aya is given by the applicant, it should be a living document. So what you find in most franchisees, there's a business plan for SARS, and there's a business plan for the franchisor, and then there is a business plan. So we are saying that the plan that James approves becomes a living document, and it becomes an activator. So if you said you would have sold 5 chewing gums by the 9th of February, and you've not sold one, that should be an alarm going somewhere to say you're not going to meet plan. And we shouldn't be seeing this 6 months later. So the gap that will be closed, I'm coming to share that with you, James, really needs to be the tool that someone sits and be able to see. I looked after about 24 service stations, and it is not possible that you'll be looking at the financials and closing that. So what I wish was there was the ability to see that something is going wrong sooner than later, and then being able to jump in and give that. So the association has also asked that we create a hub of information through television and media, and I think that is going to close the gap that I see largely the black community not having, which is going to understand and going to see where and how have others succeeded. So what I wish was there was that honest sharing of information and the portals that you guys are going to be creating through the channel that we will have, which is going to be the center where people can go and access information. So access to information is what I hope should have been there, but I think the opportunity is still there to do that honestly and to be able to partner with the right people. Township is where it's happening. So let's get those success stories and just give the information out.
No, thank you for that, Tulani. But I think that the question would be across board, essentially. I mean, from a banking side, you would have missing information in terms of individuals trying to get into the business, not knowing what kind of information to present. From a franchisor's perspective, is where do I get that seed funding? Where do I get access to that money to actually start getting the model running, moving? And from a township point of view, is getting the right operators, the right locations, the right markets. As we know that, it's not easy operating in any market, whether you're operating in the suburbs, whether you're operating cross-border, whether you're operating locally within your small townships. There are different ecosystems that generally dictate how business is done. And I think across board, the common issue is financing and getting the right kind of capital to get into that space. But Mr. Jeremy, moving on to you. When choosing a franchisee, what qualities matter most to you beyond financial qualifications? And how do you support someone who has never run a business before?
James, can I?
James?
Oh, Mr. James.
No.
For me.
You got two J's right next to one another. So there was a deliberation. Was it James or was it Jeremy? Thank you so much. I think when I personally look for someone, and I'm talking across the board, even someone that I'm employing, I think my standards are more or less the same. And the first thing I will ask is, do you like food? And everyone will answer yes. I didn't ask, do you like eating food? But do you have a passion for being in the food industry? Do you have a passion for retail? Like you said, it's one thing to say, yes, I can do the job. It's another thing when we're coming back at 2 o'clock in the morning from a food truck and a party that was happening at Wits University. I've had so many people quit the next day. Because it's crazy. It's crazy. You serving 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people like this. And the only thing that carries you is passion. I enjoy being here. I like music. I love people. I enjoy interacting at social events. I enjoy food and preparing food. And I think that's the main thing. I think so many people say to me, I don't know how to run a franchise. I say, don't worry about that. We can teach you how to do that. We can teach you business principles. We can teach you how to use a POS. We can teach you lots of things, but I cannot teach you passion. That I cannot give to you. It has to be something you want to do. You really, really want to do it. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, and if you want to be in the space, that's my departure point. Because lots of people say, you know, I want to make a lot of money. I mean, that's fair. We all want to make a lot of money. Everybody wants to be a billionaire, right? Right?
Yes.
Some of us don't want to be a billionaire. Well, and I'm in a bank. I'm so surprised. I'm even blushing. But the truth is that, you know, if you're not deeply invested mentally, and if you're not deeply invested emotionally, and in the words of way back, if you're not all in, and I know the Soccer World Cup is coming up, and I'm sure you're going to hear it, that guy is all in, you know? If you're all in, you can win. If you're not all in, and you're just there for the money, it's going to be a very long testing process. Because somehow, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I doubt that you're thinking about money. You're thinking about sleep. You're thinking about your bed. You're thinking about how cold it is. You're thinking about how annoying teenagers are. At 3 o'clock in the morning, how can they still be hungry? You ask yourself these questions. How are they still hungry? I want to go home. And that's exactly it. If you're not passionate about feeding people, if you're not passionate about making a difference, if you're not passionate about being in business, then you will lose steam. Because I think there was another thing that for me coming into the market. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. There's Alex over there. I had to sit with legal documents, bringing my brand in. I think it was month upon month upon month. After 6 months, I mean, you know, I'm an educated guy. I almost threw in the towel, and I hadn't even sold a burger yet. I thought to myself, this is just legal work. I'm not a lawyer, but I had to review these documents and review these documents and review these. And then eventually, I thought I was done. And then I submitted it to Franchise South Africa. And guess what? It came back. And I said, what did I do for 6 months? Look how Alex is laughing at me. You know? And then I got a friend, you know, and I was deeply passionate about Way Back Burgers. I said, no, I am going to make this a success. I got a friend who, his name is Lesejo. He's also a consultant. I said to him, I said, Chezo, and the way it happened, the way me and Chezo met, and this is all to the point. The way it happened was, I went over and above. Helping Chezo. I was working for someone, and Chezo said, I got a problem. And I said, you're crazy. And I walked away. And he stayed in my mind. And I have a saying in my mind. It says, if you do things that you are not paid to do, soon you will be paid for things that you didn't do. And Chezo was in the back of my mind. And you know, I said, I can't leave this guy. I cannot leave him. And I got to work early and I shook it and I shook the box and I phoned Chezo up. 2 weeks later, he probably thought this guy's forgot about me. 2 weeks later, I came up with an idea. I said, Chezo, I know where you need to be. You need to be in a space. I had nothing to do with entrepreneurship. I had nothing to do. I said, you need to be in a space down there. I know there's a guy down there, he's giving free PhDs. I got a small room that's going to fit your budget, and you're right next to the person you need to be. And I left it at that. I left Chezo and I walked away. Years later, I met Chezo at the gym. Incidentally, that's why I say I believe in God. I said, Chezo, what are you doing? He says, you know what I'm doing? I say, I got a problem. He says, I know who you need to speak to. He introduced me to a guy named Johan who was on Franchise South Africa. He introduced me to Johan, and Johan said to me, we believe in you, Jeremy. We're going to fix it. And Johan then helped me to work through my master franchise document. And within, I think it was a month or two, it was ready for Franchise South Africa. And it took a load off me because I don't know how much you know about how much it costs to interact with lawyers. You know, if they WhatsApp you, they charge. I didn't know that. I was like, I thought we WhatsApping. They're like, here's your bill at the end of the month. I'm like, it's 10 WhatsApps. and so we got the breakthrough. And it wouldn't have happened if I didn't have hair on my teeth and a deep, deep-seated passion and a belief that I can make a difference. And I'm willing to go the distance, and I'm all in. If I wasn't all in, and if I was, let's say, for instance, sitting at a job somewhere, I would have put that document one side and carried on with what I'm doing. And he would have said that 10 million would have been in the field somewhere. Right? And I'd say, I'll get to it. I'll get to it, because it wasn't immediate. But I was all in, and I needed to make it happen. And I still am all in, and I'm here to make it happen.
No, thank you for that. Wow. Testament of a franchisor, and I believe now we have the financier who may have a different perspective on that and add more from his side. I mean, as much as Jeremy told us, it's putting in those extra hours. It's finding out as the job goes, you know, getting billed per WhatsApp, yeah. But James, please, your insights on the point.
Yes, yeah, and I think Jeremy touched on it, and he spoke about passion, and I think if you look at him and how he talks, there's passion in his voice. The story that he's telling us, it comes with passion. I would like to add attitude to that as well. Attitude and passion, you can never ever replace. You can learn skills, but if you don't have the right attitude and the right passion, then you can't teach anyone any skill. And I think that's what I've seen over the years, and I mentioned earlier of all the millionaires I made, or the apps I made. But I've also seen a lot of hardship, and I've seen a lot of failures as well. My own story, I was also a franchisee for about 9 years, and I did fail in the end. There were also good times, but in the end I failed because also to what you earlier mentioned about technology and not keeping up with the times and understanding what's happening in an ever-changing environment. So I think, yeah, for me and in my early years, when I started off in my banking career, I looked at how many, and that was the boom, or the booming years for franchising, when all the big brands that we know today, when they were rolling out literally 10, 12, 15 franchise. Look at famous brands, say for instance, 20 franchises a month. And there were a lot of opportunities, but I saw people over time coming in with the wrong attitude, and where they thought buying a franchise, you just arrive there and everything happens. Buying a franchise doesn't mean that you are guaranteed for success. You work just as hard as the guy who's got a business that's not franchised. Yes, the benefit of having a franchise is that you've got a brand backing you, and but there's no guaranteed success. And I've seen that with a lot of entrepreneurs or people stepping into the franchise world, think with the wrong attitude, thinking that I'm just going to make profit, I'm just going to make money, this is a guaranteed success. And then learning the hard way, like you mentioned earlier, that 600,000 loss. If you're not there in your business, your staff will eventually, let's call it, win you.
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, they will. So, but yeah, I think the big thing for attitude, passion, and if you look at Jeremy, I mean, he talks with passion. I really appreciate and like your story.
No, thank you for that, James. Please pass the mic to Bulelani, please. The next question is posed to you, sir. The township economy and the formal franchise sector seems like natural partners. Why aren't they? And what is Fasa doing to close that gap structurally, not just aspirationally?
No, man, I think before I even answer that, I think some of the comments that were made, I think earlier on, I think it's about thoughts, and also then just reminders in conversation with some franchisees rather, sorry. To say, I think the relationship, when you sort of think about it, I think you need to think about it as, think of that franchisor or franchisee as a key stakeholder, meaning that there's mutual beneficiation within the relationship. And I think at the very heart of it needs to be support. I mean, I think of the early days of one of the, I just forgot what the name of the brand was really, but they had gone into the market and had commercialized aspects of the Sishanyama industry. Years later, they had gone to fail. But quite interestingly enough, I mean, one of the franchisees still remained in business. And one of the consistent things that you have in conversation when we talk to him over the years is, I keep telling, and I've kept telling these guys what to change on the menu, what's not working, they would not listen. And I have forced to add things, because if this business fails, it's my money, not theirs. And that's how they are going about this thing. So the one is looking to pull and extract where you've got an individual who's on the ground that you can feed insights from on a consistent base when you think about it as a collaborative approach, not just as someone we are supporting from afar, and then pay the royalty fees, the marketing fees, the whatever fees, and that's just that. And we'll give you ad hoc support that comes at a fee, but we're not really genuinely invested. So I think there's a double lens there in thinking about that individual who comes and buys into as someone who's buying into us for the long term, and we will also do the same and buy into them, and we are nothing without them. And it's beyond that franchise fee of 2 million or 3 million or 4 million. It needs to be a long-term relationship. And I think for me that then also segues a bit into what you're asking now, right? I think in and around, for instance, this particular space and what the discourse has always been, I think by and large, when you sort of think of the township, rural communities, the biggest discourse has always been just that, right? The misinformation, individuals speaking past each other. You know, you'd have a minister saying small businesses need to formalize. You would have a large corporate also jumping on that bandwagon. But what do you actually mean? Sure. Do you mean I must register my business? Do you mean that I need to formalize my operations? Because my operations are formal. I just don't have the master document to show you. Because that is why you then have, that is why you would have an old lady or a gentleman who then wakes up at 3 a.m., goes to City Deep, stocks the vegetables, is done by 2 p.m., takes 2 or 3 of his kids to university. Owes no one anything. There's a system that operates there, the system that talks to the quality, the attitude, the customer service, how you follow up, how you follow through, where you store and how you store and who you store with and how you negotiate those things. But however, in formal mainstream economies, you then don't necessarily, you almost want to deal with people that almost operate in the systems that we operate in. And I really think that one of the best tools there is to then take the vantage point of humanity that says, in actual fact, maybe we are the informal ones. And if we are the informal ones, if you take that disposition, it opens yourself up to understanding better what our market is, because you take all knowledge and arrogance that you have and you leave it at that door. So and then you are able to then, whatever new information that comes in, you become more palatable to that information. I'm not trying to force feed you. And I mean, I see this on the backdrop of, and there's a number of programs I've ran in various industries. And I think one of the key things that we always find is to ask the key question is whatever fund, like we're working with a fund, a lot of corporate partners, to ask them, is there a deep desire in heart by your organization to want to support X type of individuals or businesses? And if it is, let's look at the compliance as an essential. But which aspects of compliance as an essential is a non-negotiable, and which ones could we then give provisional approvals on? You find that you can give provisional approvals on letters of good standing because the individual's failure to then show good standing is because he could not pay, because it was non-transactional. Then you can give a 30-day provisions on that, but you don't compromise on the CIPC registration and other basic things that are non-negotiables, because we can't get you in and then convince you to be an entrepreneur thereafter. So I think those things for me sort of then speak to the deep intention. But I think at the very heart of it is driven by the intent of the individual to want to put in the sweat equity so that you don't think of going into franchising, as a cash cow. They'll just show up at 6 p.m., collect the check and some receipts and leave, and they'll come in and collect. You're going to lose a lot of money. You need to be deeply passionate, like what Jeremy was saying, deeply passionate, and I think all the panelists, echo the same thing, deeply passionate, willing to put the sweat equity in, but then in a mutual beneficial relationship, the individuals, what should keep the franchisor up all day long or all night long is, how do I make this person succeed? And then opposite of it as well, how do I make this individual work, not just for me, but also for my stakeholders and partners?
That's right. I must say you touched on 2 points that speak very closely to me as an individual and also as a professional. And it was, you leave your ego outside at the door when you enter. You become palatable. Be prepared to learn. We all don't know everything. And when you enter into business, your intention should be to learn and not to try and be the best at it initially. And I like making examples, from children to driving cars. It's like driving a car. Most gents will know. You get into the driver's seat, you already want to be perfect, but you're already laying off the clutch before the car's in gear, it's kicking, it's fighting you. Until you learn to work with the car, the business is the same. You don't go in with that arrogance of, I've seen people do it. I've seen who and so are running 3 stores. But the story and the market may treat you very differently. And just to round that off, it would be a thing of, as much as you become an entrepreneur and a boss of your own business, the market becomes your boss. And essentially, you need to be led before you can lead. And that means understanding what your market needs and knowing exactly what your business needs to put in place to ensure that that business moves forward. But quick one before we move on to the next session. I think this question is to all panelists. And it's, franchising has a cost barrier. I mean, we've heard this question over and over again. Is that barrier still as real as it is 10 years ago? And if it has reduced, what drove that reduction? If not, who is responsible for changing it?
Yeah, let me maybe kick off there. And that's normally one of the challenges that we as a bank face, is that it's not cheap to enter into the world of franchising. The moment you think you will get economies of scale and so forth, but to put a signage up there comes at a cost. To have a system in your business comes at a cost. To have uniforms and display shelves and whatever the case might be comes at a cost. And you will find that in the end, if you want to go into a food franchise, most probably, it's actually going to cost you more joining a franchise system versus if I put up James's Burgers. It's going to cost me much less. So therefore there is a bit of a, let's call it, cost barrier, and I think over the years I've seen it from a banking perspective, that is that just increased over time. Look, there's a bit of a delay now with upgrades and revamps and those type of things, but I mean, every 4 to 5 years, most franchise brands want to upgrade their look and feel. That comes at a cost. And if you don't have sufficient savings, then obviously that must be financed, and that impacts the profitability of your business. And the moment you need to also respect the commercials and the financial models of what is the profitability of this business. And that then dictates what type of cash investment or equity it is that you need to put into the business to make that business sustainable over time. So I think it's a very fine line, but the cost to get into franchising is more expensive. But I think if you look at the success rate of franchise businesses, there's a proven record. As independents, most of them 80% plus fails in the first 3 years, where if you step into the franchise world, most probably 80% of them will go beyond that 3 years. And that's not obviously if you have the right support from your franchisor as well.
No, thank you for that, James. Tulani?
Yeah, I think I'll just build on to what James has said. It costs money to make money. I've got a couple right now, they're wanting assistance with establishing a filling station in Springs. They've got the land, but they don't have the money that affords me to get them to where they need to get to. So the question is now, how do we bridge the gap? James is going to ask for up to 50%, probably. Oh, he's reduced it! Yay!
No.
So
I think on that point, so it's more dictated by the franchisors, and it's the compliance that comes from the franchise agreements that, as Fasa, have reviewed and set a common structure that will require a, how can I say, skin in the game, as they would refer to it in franchising. But yes, please continue.
So the cost of getting there is really the important thing, and understanding that the business must be able to afford you as a franchisee. So business is going to be able to afford and get you the money that you need. So it's really around the cost and the reasoning that it is probably going to take you that long to get the money, and also just the understanding that when you're in franchising, what you have really is a right to use the brand, and the brand still belongs to the franchisee. I had one franchisee, he passed away, and he had left the franchise to the children. So we had to go and break that to the family. You don't do that. It's a franchisor that's going to decide what happens going next. So it's understanding what it is that you are going into, which is the homework that you need to do. There are times when you ask the person, like, what homework did you do to basically be able to say that's the investment you want to go into? Probably the road that is bringing you the traffic, there's a bridge that's going to be going over that in 6 months. So doing the homework and going in to find out really what is going on is important, because that's and if the franchisor is really not a member of Fasa, be careful, because that means that there is a vetting that has not been done that needs to be there. So yes, there are people that are the franchisors that are not there, but if you are going into that space, it's really the homework. I think really it's cost, it's information, and the dedication that's still the barrier for me.
No, thank you for that, Tulani. Jamie?
Before I pause on, I just want to say that, and the importance of the brand is very important, because as banks, we've also seen some brands, you can actually gear higher, meaning that you can give the franchisee more lending because the business can afford to repay it. Where, let's say, your second tier or third tier brands, obviously the profitability of those businesses are not the same as a tier one top brand. I always use an example, and I'm not going to name the brand name, but I once financed a business. basically funded them 100%, where they converted from an independent brand, it was a grocery retailer, to one of the grocery retail brands. By just putting up the brand or the signage of that specific brand, the turnover in that business, while they're busy renovating the business or the premises, the turnover doubled just by putting up a signage. And once the revamp was completed, within 2-3 months after that, the turnover increased fourfold. So obviously that has a significant impact on the profitability and the ability of that business to repay the loan and the loan that they took out with the bank. Now at the time, if it was maybe a different grocery retailer's brand that they put up there, it would not have had the same impact. So I think it's very important, brand recognition, and that's one of the big values that franchising brings to entrepreneurship.
No, thank you
so much. Right.
Jeremy?
Thanks. Thank you, James. I think from my side, I'd like to say, and I think it came through, and I'd like to echo it, that accreditation and issues of confidence and trust are paramount. And shamelessly, I'd like to say that's why Jeremy, CEO of Wayback Burgers South Africa, that's right, I have spent so much time on making sure that as I enter into the market, I'm not only accredited with Franchise South Africa, I'm also a board member on Franchise South Africa. I'm also vetted, so that when people look at my business, they don't think, oh, this guy is just a fly-by-night. He's over there doing his own thing. I am part of a community, and that's what I was also pointing at. I'm part of a community that is peer-reviewed, so to say. We are looking at each other. I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. And you'll be the first one to call me out and say, Jeremy, you know what? There's something about your business I don't understand. There's something about your model. I mean, I WhatsApp called Larry last week. I said, Larry, we need to think around something. And it was funding. I said, Larry, I got a funding issue. How do you think we should unpack this? Freddie says I should go this way. Larry says I should go this way. I say I'm going this way. And my dad, who helped set up Pick n Pay franchise, says go the other way. So yeah, I mean, I've got on my team, I've got a legend, a little Pick n Pay legend sitting there. He sits behind me and he says, you might be going in the wrong direction, or I'm sure this is the right way to go. And I'm there to listen. So the barriers to entry are all about confidence and trust. And I think that's where it's at. And I think in building your rapport as a brand, it will always be that. It will always be about confidence and trust. It will always be about your legal rigor. It will always be about your confidence with your market and understanding your market and your customer and them understanding you. And that is brutal nowadays. I mean, it's not even my fault and they give me a 1 star. I had a lady call me on a Friday night. I won't mention my delivery service, and this comes back to opportunities in business. But at that point, I thought I just want to get rid of my delivery service. But she shouted at me. I'm the reason she doesn't have a burger, and I was none the wiser, and I put my number on the website, for Wayback Burgers. So she phoned Wayback Burgers, and guess who she got through to? Me. And then she said to me, I will give you a 1 star. And I was like, okay, now I know why Wayback Burgers got a 1 star, and it's not even my fault. But it will always be my baby. Do you get what I'm saying? It will always be my issue of confidence. Confidence with my customer, confidence with my service, my point of service, confidence with my bank. if they don't have confidence in me. You know, and that comes down to a lot of things. I give projected figures. I mean, I mentioned my overdraft. I said, this is what I'm doing. They said, what did you do? Not what I'm doing, what did you do? And that's how I got my overdraft. And I'm going to ask them for more money. They know what's up. But you get what I'm saying. You can only do so much. You can show them what you've done. I'm a franchise South Africa member. I've got this person on my leadership board. I've got these people on my and that's why and actually I just want to go back to why I chose to be part of a brand as opposed to do my own thing. Because I could have made my own burger. But I think when it comes to generating a brand, I opened my WhatsApp, my Instagram, and I showed him my pictures. And he said, man, your pictures are so on point. The reason why I did that is because I understand that I have a consumer that has a standard. And I do not have time or money to generate or to be able to compete with the big guys on that standard. So I have to pull from a team, you know? I have to pull from a team that's able to give me those tools. Whereas when someone asks me, why should I be part of Wayback Burgers? I'm going to show them. I'm going to say, look here, here's my Instagram page. Here's my Facebook page. These are my menus. This is how often I'm changing my menu. And this depth of knowledge is exactly what is going to take us through this process. Because, you know, for me to think of a burger while I'm doing a legal document is an impossible task. Really, I am male. And I generally think about one thing at a time. For all the guys in the room, you know, can I get an amen? Amen? You know what I'm saying? It is true, right? We cannot, I'm not that person. I'm not that person that's able to think about a menu idea and then think about a legal document in the same space. I'm not, it's not possible. So it allows me to pivot very fast from one topic to the next. From marketing and Instagram and menu items and point of sales to legal documents and accounts, very fast I can pivot. Because many of the things and the thought processes that generally you go through with starting a brand. You know, what's my logo gonna look like? What point of sale will I use? And even as someone that has earned my stripes, and then my last point, you know, even as someone that has earned my stripes, I think I'm on to my third point of sale now. Third point of sale system with Absa. But the truth is, that's life, right? You go to someone, you say to someone, can you do this? They say yes. You work with them, you realize this is not what I want. I need a system that can integrate my food truck that's sitting in a school in Sandton and my shop that's sitting on the West Rand and my computer, and because I'm sitting here and I need to see all of that at the same time. I need to know that person's running out of food. Because when they're in the food truck and they're dealing with those kids and, you know, mosquitoes in the background, they forget that they're actually there to sell burgers. They are selling burgers, but they don't tell me, hey, we're down to 50 patties here in the truck. They'll tell you when they have no patties. Oh, we have no food, we are sold out. And and now you are an hour behind the curve. And in that hour, Chip and Dip sold all the chips and no one's hungry anymore. And so that's how it goes. I'm now on to my third POS, for real. And I need an answer, and I'm looking. But I say that me taking the school fees for a franchisee, if the person is sitting, you know, this is his only gig, he's gonna have one chance at it. Like me, one chance at it. He might look at the situation and say, I can't lose. I have to go in there. I have to be at the school, and I have to be at my business, and I have to be, at this family function at the same time. I need a system that can do that.
No, that's quite insightful. And in closing, Bulelani, I would just like to get your point.
What was the question?
Barriers.
Barriers. We're talking about
the
barriers.
financing, the unencumbered portion that the infamous financial institution.
Sure, I think for me, man, I've had the opportunity, I think yet again, maybe let me answer this very short but two-pronged. I always say to the individual whose endeavors is to become the franchisee or rather the entrepreneur, always look at the low end, because you got on the under end franchisees who will open up and give this asset off without any requiring any collateral from it, because you've actually shown the intellectual mass that you've got skin in the game and you are deeply passionate. So beyond the passion, you can genuinely show that you've been in the industry. So I think in every industry, really, for me, there's a value chain. The big thing is to demonstrate, you do understand the value chain. So if I'm going to come in and sit with the ABSA team, I need to demonstrate to them I do not have the 3 million that you guys are looking for as my short share of collateral. But I've been in this industry for the past 25 years, and these are the insights that I can share being in this industry. These are the 5, 6, or 8 clients that I can refer you to who can back these insights that I have. The competitive advantage coming into this relationship in giving me the money beyond the financial forecasting is that I'll be able to guarantee this through these innovative moves that I'm bringing into the conversation. I've had the conversation with the franchisor, they like my understanding, and I'm now coming to you to ask for this to then be the sure guarantee. We underestimate that, and I think in most cases within the conversation falls off at I'll get the knowledge the moment I enter into the industry. But I think sometimes at that point it might even be too late. Which is why I think some of the information that is being shared here is, before the thought or the thinking is, I want to wait for 2 million to get into, it should be, I wonder do I really even genuinely need to get into, before you even think of raising that capital. Because the true question to that capital that we will be indebted to, or rather for, will come up when the business is not doing well. And now that's what is going to see, the passion is now going to sift into then saying, were you genuinely even passionate about it, or was the driver money? And I think we all know, if anything starts and the driver is the what, and I think for me the what is money, then you already know you've got a problem. But there's a partnership or collaboration, because when the things go bad, it's going to cause a very big problem. So I think for me, I always think about it in that particular vantage point. And I think as an individual who's looking for the right funder, you look for the right funder. I think in this particular case, ABSA has done an amazing job in providing funding to these amazing businesses, but not just funding and support to these entrepreneurs. So I think for me, that matchup needs to be the one that you then take into context before you even decide to even go into. You need to demonstrate that intellectual efficacy, that skill in the game, before you ask for that 5 or 6 or 10 million rand. And if you've got the 10 million rand, then so be it. But I think the true question, even with the 10 million in your bank account, is going to be vacant when the times are tough, or the business is not moving, it's not agile enough. What are the innovative tools will you then bring in? So that skin in the game becomes definitely important.
No, thank you. No, definitely, and I agree with you on that point. But gentlemen, I'd like to say, guys, give them a round of applause for the insights they shared with us. These are industry players that understand the game longer than I've been alive in most cases. But also in the same breath, they are continuously in the forefront of the change, the forever moving landscape of South Africa. We've navigated COVID. Now we're navigating something else. What is it called? Hantavirus.
Don't do that. It will give us anxiety.
There's all sorts of economic stress that we're going through, but due to the fact that we might have started a little over time, I'd like to start to get the second panelist through. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and your insights. So the next panelist coming up, I'd like to welcome Mr. Larry Holmes.
How's it?
And then I believe we were supposed to have WIFA with us. Is there a representative from WIFA that's currently in the room? And then we've got SA Youth Mobi. Please come up to the stage, man.
No pressure.
No, relax. You'll be fine. Seeing that some of our panelists have not arrived, in the interest of time, just to get some insights from you guys.
Oh, wow.
And to get a better understanding.
Anybody else? No?
I think there was somebody
No, I'm
online.
just thinking somebody else.
They might be online, actually, yes. I would like to confirm if Akona is with us online, by any chance? Okay, I see Asanda's online. Asanda, do you mind putting on your mic? I'd like you to be a part of this engagement if possible. I think your insights would be quite fruitful from this perspective, as much as you are a franchisor as well, and a woman-led franchise by that. And you are making strides in this country under this current economic state. And you've shown that in the current standing of where we are, it is possible to start a new business. It is possible for someone to get into franchising and potentially add value and benefit from it. If you can just, let us hear your voice, if possible. Okay. So we've got Larry and we've got Giselle. So I've got some very interesting questions for you guys that I think a lot of the Franchise Association and also the greater part of the franchising organization would like to get insights from you guys. And kicking off, ladies first.
Ah.
Many people in this room may not know SA Youth Mobi. Tell us, who is on your platform? What do they want? And why is the conversation about franchising relevant to them?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Giselle Hutchinson. I'm the sector lead for retail hospitality at Harambee, and I'm here to talk about SA Youth. SA Youth is a digital platform that youth in South Africa are able to connect to upload their experience, their work history, their whatever they need you to know. Employers will go onto the platform, register opportunities, and you can access it. SA Youth is powered by Harambee. It is the biggest digital youth employment platform in the country. We have 4.6 million active young people on the platform and just over 5 million individuals on the platform. The 4.6 means they've been active in the last 6 months. They are looking for jobs. They are looking for skills. They are looking for make your own money opportunities. They're engaged. They're focused. We have a very, very big disbelief in South Africa that the youth are disengaged. They're not. They're just not able to find opportunities. And that's where a platform like SA Youth becomes critical. We are part of the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative. We are the implementing platform for that, connecting youth with opportunities in the private sector, public sector, and civil society. We have 3,300 employers on the platform, opening opportunities every single day. We are able, so the platform it's kind of amazing, guys. It's zero data rated for young people. They can go on the platform, upload their CVs, upload work experience, do training, free training modules, etc., and apply for jobs anywhere in South Africa. So not only do we have employers that are registered on the platform, again, free of charge, there's no charge to anyone for using the platform. Employers can post their opportunities. Young people can see that, but we also harvest or scrape opportunities from the rest of the platforms around the country. So young people have access. We believe in breaking barriers. It's interesting, Breaking Barriers is a publication that we launch once a quarter, and we talk about breaking barriers. In South Africa, youth don't face one barrier, they face multiple barriers. Right? We think about they don't have money for phone calls. But there's no money for data, there's no money for phone calls, there's no money for officeware, there's no money to get to an opportunity. So through us unlocking our ecosystem, we're able to break down those barriers. It's data free on the platform for young people. We have an incredible initiative where we enable young people to access gently used corporate wear so they're able to go to interviews and start their first day and give them dignity in that space. We also work with Uber, with Rides for Jobs. So where we know young people will struggle to get to interviews, we make use of a fund and give them vouchers in order to access those opportunities. And then what is in it for the franchises? You're able to load your opportunities on the platform anywhere in the country. We have youth in all corners of South Africa. There's geolocation on the applicant, on the opportunity. So if you say you're looking for 5 people in Uppington, and you're wondering how the hell am I going to reach people in Uppington, we have youth all over the country. So once an opportunity is posted in those areas, the young people in that area will be notified that there is an opportunity there, and they're able to give them access. If you're thinking of a young girl child at home who has to stay home to look after her brothers and sisters because everybody else is out trying to make money, she can sit at home while doing that, looking for opportunities. And those opportunities could be anywhere, doing anything. So it's really about democratizing access and ensuring that, I mean, guys, we know, when you put out a job ad, you're going to get thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of applications. We have a big QSR in South Africa that's had about 1,200 opportunities and 500,000 applications in 8 months. That's insane. You're never going to struggle with getting enough applicants, right? What we do help you with is how to match those applicants. So looking in the back end of our system, SMOB, how we use the algorithms, the matching, the sorting, the custom questions, how you refine that and you find the right people for your opportunities. Another link for franchises, and we've been speaking this morning about, are you ready to own a franchise? Do you understand what that means? How better than to bring a young person in to your business and start from the bottom up and build their way up? We're talking about franchisees not understanding the business or not getting involved. What better way than a young person who started in your business from the bottom and now runs one of your businesses? What an incredible story. Thank you.
You know what? That's great.
Before we get into that, you touched on something quite critical when it comes to youth and linking them up with the right opportunities. I myself am a youth, and I can't say that across board we all have the same school of thought. We have the same principles in place, or we execute things on the same visions and the same backgrounds. But what do you guys provide that would potentially assist an individual who is uncertain of the kind of opportunity that aligns with them? More so from the youth perspective. I mean, from 21 to 28, most of us are still figuring out who we are. And the reality is you could put someone in an industry you see they are good at, but they might not have a passion for it, as previously mentioned. And how do you get over those hurdles? And once you've identified those hurdles, what is the next due course to sorting that issue out?
I love the question. So part of breaking barriers is understanding that not everybody comes from the same background, experience, etc. We have a contact center, we call them guides. We have 150 youth who come from the platform. It's a work integrated learning environment. Every year, it's a 1-year program, and we continually have cohorts cycling in and out, where they receive training, coaching, etc., and then they're able to support young people. We have an outbound and an inbound contact center. Every young person who registers on the platform, within 1 working day, will get a call from one of our guys to say, hey, we've seen you on the platform, we see you, how did it go? Were you able to complete your profile? What are your interests? If that young person is struggling, if they need someone to talk to, if they're unsure of an opportunity, they can phone in toll-free, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. We have chatbots in the evenings, WhatsApp, social media, emails. We really are trying to cover all the areas to make sure young people feel seen, heard, and supported. Obviously, there is a big requirement for young people to arrive, and we get that. But if we create an enabling environment with the support structures to do that, I think we can empower them to do that, right? I think there also is a lot we can do with our employers and with our franchises across various sectors. So how do we look at empowering young people with the knowledge that they're able to make those decisions? So as the sector lead for retail hospitality, QSR is a major player in my space. How do we get young people to understand that working in a QSR is a way to finding an occupation? What is the economy within a QSR? So quick service restaurants. It's not just about somebody who's serving at someone at the till, a cashier. It's not just somebody who's cooking the burger. What about supply chain, finance, logistics? It's like a whole economy that goes into that, and it's about empowering young people, but it begins with those conversations. We had a young lady when we were doing the QSR recruitment recently. She was 25 and she came into our offices and we were assisting this partner with the recruitment, and one of the teams said she was petrified. And obviously we're like, how's it going? What's happening? She was 25 years old and this was the first interview she'd ever been invited to. Imagine everything that it took from her to get up and come to this interview when this is not something she ever had access to or opportunities to do. And it's through those experiences that we empower young people. And it's same with this gig work, short-term contracts. If you're opening a store, if you're opening a branch and you need somebody just to come in and do a little bit of work, bring a young person and give them that experience, because every piece of experience builds that muscle and builds their confidence and builds their abilities.
No, absolutely. I was about to touch on that point of confidence. I think any youth going into something they don't know is dealing with that aspect of getting over that confidence and that fear of failure. And it's amazing to know that you guys are existing. I wish you guys were around 10 years ago.
We were.
They were.
We are 15 years old.
I was not aware. But yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I'm actually grateful that you can partner up with us as Fasa. It's a fantastic model that we can roll out more so to the youth, more so to the younger generations, and say, guys, here's the opportunity. You're not sure about this? Have a look at this. They might be able to help you chart your own path moving forward, more so from a franchising side of things, and also potentially getting them to become owners as they gain that experience and that exposure that they need to essentially create their own businesses.
I think we shouldn't underestimate the ability of franchises to provide places where young people can learn transversal skills that they're able to apply throughout their lives and throughout their careers. This is something we're not getting in our education system. We know that kids are barely getting through the education system because of a myriad of issues, not just education. So how do we, as business, allow young people to take that first step in growing and understanding what it means to arrive at work on time? Understand what it means to have to stand all day. Understand that you can't have your cell phone with you 24/7. At some point, you've got to put it down and you've got to focus. But it's through these interventions and these partnerships, and I'm so excited about Fasa.
No, absolutely. I mean, when Fred had initially raised it, I was like, okay, this is quite interesting. It's a much broader platform to get through to the youth, seeing that there are proactive youth that are trying to better their environments, want to do, and having institutions such as yourself available to hold our hands and be like, okay, guys, let's do A, not B, we'll get to C after B, let's fix this, you know? And it's one of the key elements that have been missing in terms of the industry and getting the right people involved. I mean, as James had earlier mentioned, there's businesses that have come up and succeeded and there's businesses that have failed. And the reality is they did not have the structure that comes with what your institution offers. People come out as medical practitioners, lawyers and doctors and so forth, and they're like, you know what, I've been doing this for years, there's no way I can fail at business. I've seen otherwise. And you know, it's beautiful that your focus is on the youth. Not to say we've forgotten the existing operators, but to say that let's look at the future, because the future, or these individuals could be the next people that are running these legacy businesses that are currently in place. But thank you for that, Giselle.
Thank you.
Larry, my co-board member. You spent your career motivating people to enter franchising. What is the most common reason you hear from people who hold back, and what do you say to them?
Who hold back?
Yes.
Who hold back? So, look, if you're going to get into franchising, you know, it's in between being a complete definition of an entrepreneur to somebody who wants to do something on their own. And this is the great thing. If you ever want to go into a business, and because being a true entrepreneur is all about taking risk, complete risk on your own. Whereas joining with a franchise, you know, and Jeremy was talking a lot about that, of all the support, everything. So while you're thinking of legal, this is happening in the background. You're coming with a full team. And the great thing is that you you've got a model that's already been proven. And that's really the essential thing. And another thing that I would add, because and I see it too many times, is that you've got guys who are true entrepreneurs, but they say, let me try the first, of getting into a franchise first. But what does that mean? A franchise comes with rules and regulations, and you've got to stick to them. And that's really, really critical. And some people want to do things on their own. So I was part of Mug and Bean. Early, when we were setting up, and I set up the learning and development and HR department, and I was there for quite a few years. And I was about 20 meters away from Ben from Malta, the guy who started Mug and Bean, an incredible individual and really a great mentor for me. But so many times, I would hear him shouting, franchising is not a democracy. Franchising is not a democracy. You're coming and you're joining. It's like joining a club. There are rules, regulations, and everything. Stick to them. You will be very successful. I've also seen so often the franchisees who stick to the rules, who stick to the brand, and do what is right as per the brand are the ones who are usually the most successful. Screw around with brand standards and things like that, there's a great chance you're going to go out of business.
No, absolutely. And I agree with you outright, Larry. And in my past life, I was a representative of a franchisor. And having had to deal with all franchisees across the country. And everybody's got a different personality. Everybody sees the world in their own way, and they tend to have their own ideas where they think they can do better. And you let them apply it and you watch them crash and burn. But this is where the benefit is of being a part of a group. This is where we come in as head office and we play that supporting role to that franchisee, despite them going against what was initially agreed. It's still a thing of a slap on the wrist, let's help you get that contract. And then let's maintain the next steps moving forward so that you see the success in what structure has been put in place to get some of these franchisees into place. But thank you for that, Larry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to get into more meaty questions that might be picking on your minds a bit in terms of the franchising sector and as well as the World Franchise Day. And sticking with Larry for now, Fasa membership is something you advocate for strongly. Beyond the official value proposition, what has Fasa done for your business? And what would you say to the business owner who asks why?
So, first of all, me as a business, I can honestly say I'm a supplier. So I've been a franchisor, I've been a franchisee. So I've sat on both sides, so I understand a lot about what happens from, the mentality, the attitudes from both sides. And sometimes the franchisor is not always right, I'll just add that in. But I joined as a supplier. And a supplier is anybody who enables franchising in some form of way to expand, to grow, to be successful. And for me, it has really been an incredible journey. First of all, from the people that I've met. I've just met so many incredible people here that, I've got a whole new group of friends, a group of colleagues, group of people who understand, what I'm going through, how I can help them. And it's just this, it's a closed knitted community. Getting onto the board, seeing how the board really operates from a strategic point of view, all the issues, that actually happen in franchising, that's another eye-opener. It's big time. But if I had to go and say, for anybody here, of joining Fasa, first of all, quite a lot has been mentioned in terms of ethics and standards. For somebody to be a part of Fasa, I know it's Alex one and Esmery, if I'm not mistaken. They're the ones who go through all the franchise agreements. They scrutinize the FDD, the franchise disclosure, document. making sure that everything is above board. You know, just before here, I was on a radio interview, and I'm just thinking now, and a person phoned in and said, that the franchisor, sent them this, to this location. They had done all the insights and blah blah blah, but they had left out a lot of information. I can honestly say that would not happen with Fasa if they were a Fasa member, because they weren't. So from that point of view, it's huge. It gives you a lot of benefits. I'm also part of the membership committee. We are working on incredible things like now where Fasa becoming a franchise capability system of how we can help franchisors and franchisees to become a lot more capable. We're designing a lot of new training, coaching. There's so many programs that are actually happening, with academies and that. Another thing that's adding on to you, and is we're creating a franchisee readiness program, because one of the biggest stresses of a franchisor is finding the best franchisees. And that's possibly their biggest, So we are looking to, because South Africa has got incredible individuals, who are, they've got leadership abilities, they've got drive, they've got energy, they've got passion. But unfortunately, they don't have capital. They don't have a mentor. They don't have a business system. But what does franchising do? It gives you all of that. So we've got to look at, so this is what we're looking at, is how do we bring individuals, we put them through a rigorous process, and it's a 3-4 month process, and they go through incredible challenges, working businesses and everything. And then if they graduate, it means that they're certified. How do we bring franchisors and franchisees together, and enable them? Because franchisors, most franchisors are just saying, bring me the money. Like, well, a lot of franchisors are doing the right thing. Are you the right franchisee? So they are. But they're saying, bring me the money. But I do believe in South Africa, we've got incredible talent. And this is what you were talking about. We've got brilliant individuals. They just need opportunities. So we need to really look at how do we create, we were talking about costs coming to franchise. How do we lower the costs for individuals where they're still going to pay somehow, please? I'm not into this, just give somebody and It doesn't work like that. But if we can give you an individual that's been proven competent, how can we meet together? And that's where I think that there's great opportunities also. But anyway, Fasa, brilliant. It's really an organization that, if you're a franchisor, you've got to join. And not because of that. I think as a franchisee, if the franchisor is not part of Fasa, ask questions. Ask a lot of questions.
No, definitely. And on that point, Bulalani had also touched on a failed franchise brand.
Yeah.
Within the Chisanyama space. And unfortunately, they were not a member of Fasa. And once we got wind of the information that we needed in terms of the setup and structure, you identify that there's a lot of loopholes that work in the franchisor's benefit without necessarily assisting the franchisee. And this is where we came in as Fasa to say, look, let's break the structure down. Let's see where the pitfalls are. Let's see how we can assist this franchisor. But unfortunately, the conversation didn't go too far. And you do get a couple of those players that are in the market, and you cannot close that tap or chase everybody away in that regard. But we try to play a supporting role in ensuring that all that compliance is in place, the governance is working in line with what the government is requiring from a business point of view, and also is not impacting or infringing on the market and the consumers' rights in the way that they operate. But no, thank you for that, Larry. And a question to you, Giselle. if you would, describe the SA Youth Mobi and franchise partnership model as if it already exists. What does it look like for a young person on the platform? What does it look like for a franchisee on the other hand?
Love that. So I think let's start with the franchisee. In being able to go to one place, load your opportunity cards or job cards for any role at any of your branches anywhere in the country, being able to post it and have applicants, and then the young person sees it. They see that it's in their area, we believe in one taxi ride away from an opportunity. Because through our research, if a young person has to follow multiple different chains to get somewhere for a day of employment, they're less likely to arrive every day. So you're able to find the people from your community with maximum one taxi ride away who have the requirements that you're looking for. So when you're building out I'm going to flip between the two because I don't think one exists without the other. So when you're loading your opportunity card and you're looking at what skills that you're looking for, when you're asking your custom questions, do you have a passion for food? Do you have a passion for working with people? Do you enjoy working late at night? Are you comfortable with standing on your feet all day? Are you comfortable with standing on your feet for 12 hours? These are things you can put on the platform and young people can answer the questions too. That helps you and the young person understand, is this just another opportunity that I'm spraying and praying for? Or is this something that I actually see myself doing? Once your opportunity card closes, you can go onto the platform and start to rank and start to sort according to, does this person have a passion for food? No, they hate food. Let's not waste each other's time, right? Does this person enjoy working at night, or does this person is this somebody who only sees themselves sleeping at night? And you craft it around that so you and the young person get a better idea of what is needed in that job before you get to an interview, before you've screened thousands of CVs. There's a dashboard with the ranking, and you can from there, based on the questions you ask the young person, based on what feedback you're wanting from them, you can build out your shortlist. Schedule interviews from the platform. Imagine not having to do any of that via email or telephone. Everything sits on the platform for you. When you schedule an interview via the platform, the young person gets tips for the interview. You're able to request documents from the platform. As a franchisee with minimum time on your side, this enables you to focus on your core business and allow access to a much bigger pool of young people. It's a lot.
No, that's an answer. But, just to top it off and, just to get a holistic view from you as our panelists, the question I pose to you now this afternoon is, World Franchise Day falls within Youth Month. What specific concrete things should the franchise sector do this June to honor that overlap, not symbolically, but practically?
Should I start? As a youth employment accelerator, this is our month. This is our month to shine. So I love it. I think the challenge to lay down for franchisees is register on the platform. If everybody loads 2 or 3 opportunities and make use of the platform to fill those opportunities, imagine how many young people will start something in the next month. Imagine how many lives you'll change, right? I think from our research, every young person that enters an opportunity supporting 8 people at home. I'm not a mathematician, but 8 times 3 I think is 24. Thank you. It's 24 people you have supported for every one opportunity that you fill. And it's all self-service. You don't need anybody else. If you need us, we're there to support you on the just-in-time training, but it's all sitting in your hands.
Well, definitely. Larry, from your side?
So I was thinking, a lot of franchisors, they concentrated in large metropolitan areas, and some secondary cities and that. But some of the small towns, there's not much franchising happening. And I think from franchisors, it's not about only opening more stores, and this is where I do think in due time is that geography is going to change. Where we're going to focus more on geographical than opening more stores within a current region. So in other words, underrepresented areas You know, it doesn't matter where you come from, whether you're sitting in Sandton or you're sitting in Diepsloot, you still want a brand that you can trust. But I'm talking Diepsloot, which is right here, part of Joburg. But I'm talking in the Eastern Cape, KZN, you know, Drakensberg, wherever. There's a lot of opportunity there. And it doesn't always, and this is another thing, it doesn't always have to be because the traditional is automotive, retail, QSR, food, and gyms. You know, there's a lot of opportunity, you know, that can come about through, you know, franchising of professional services, of senior living, of digital services. You know, the youth and digital are, you know, are something incredible these days. You know, so how do we bring them in there? I'm trying to think of how else with youth. I just want to add, like I spoke about the franchisee readiness program, maybe there's a level lower than that. How do we bring individuals in and that becomes a feeder for the franchisee readiness program? You know, and because, you know, the great thing about when you join a franchise, a lot of the guys have just got the passion, you know, Jeremy speaks about, you know, and money's at the back. And I'm going to say it because now we're talking about successful franchisees. You know, they come in, but they raw. But what happens when you join a franchise? You learn how to work within standards. You know, you're given a lot of tools. So, you know, to the franchisee, but how do we bring in other individuals to also go and experience that and, you know, and grow for themselves? Yeah.
No, that's absolutely correct. And again, it ties back to the point of, you know, every individual has their own personality. As much as they do have that passion, they might not see your vision as a franchisor. And you sometimes need to be somewhat consistent in being in front of those franchisees, reminding them. And a lot of them have these, what you call field consultants or field service consultants, which come out to the stores, which come out to the sites to just verify that the compliance is being met. And that's just some of the structures and some of the support that most franchisees offer across the board. And we ensure this as Fasa from a compliance and governance point of view, that any franchisee that is associated with us is at least compliant from a point of from planning to execution to support, right through to the operational part of that business. And you touched on a very important point. It's you leveling up the entrepreneur to understand those processes and procedure to ensure that business is successful. And you know, it's never easy. I know. I've heard stories. As it is, I look older than I really am, guys. It's because of franchising, to be honest with you. but irrespective of that, I'm still very young at heart.
Ayo, can I just talk about quickly, just adding on to no, not your age, and where I also see franchising going, you know, into the future. It's not necessarily about in South Africa. If we talk about in South Africa, it's not about bringing more brands in or opening more brands. Well, you already are, so that's okay, Jeremy. And so it's not really about that. It's about how can franchisors make current franchisees more successful. And I really believe that is the key. Because you've got franchisors, you know, with our current economic crisis and all, you know, everything that's happening, you know, stores, you know, people are saying, oh, you know what, turnovers are down. But what would happen if you took that field service consultant, an area manager, and equipped them to become business coaches? Yes, their first primary job is to protect the brand. That's the most important thing from a head office, is to protect the brand. But another thing you can add on there is to grow the brand. How do we grow the brand? It's not necessarily through more stores. It's about getting more out of your current base. So equipping area managers where, yes, they're going in. A key part of their job is to ensure that brand standards are there. So, you know, that that'll never ever be taken away. But equipping them to think strategically. Because if you think about an area manager, you've got area managers which have got regions up to 500, 600, 700 million rand. They're running regions of that. I think that's enough to be listed on the stock exchange. But yet, what are they equipped with? A pen and a paper and a tick list and say, cheers, cheers, tick, 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 tick. No. Equip those individuals. Go and work with the franchisees. And I'll tell you what will happen, and I've just seen it too many times. When a franchisee has got a great area manager or a field service consultant, they view head office in a lot more positive light, and they will make a bigger effort. Without me going into a lot of stories. So as I said, I was a franchisee. And I was running 2 stores because of financial problems. I actually gave up a great job, and I started running the 2 stores. In comes the area manager. Tick, 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 tick. Larry, you're wonderful. You cock, yeah. Please, I'm back in a month. Sort it out. And this, but even though I'm operationally strong, I'm really good. But if anybody's been in real financial, your mind's clouded. You start second guessing yourself. And I went and complained to the brand. And then they gave me another individual who we worked with, who worked with me. This was an individual who cared, who still told me, Larry, you're great here, you cut here, please, we got to sort it out. But I'm here for support and everything. And I promise you, within 2 years, and I'm not only going to put it because of myself, please. And I'm also crediting that area manager who assisted me, and we managed to double, quadruple, 400% our profit by having the right area manager. And I'm sharing from experience. I know when I had a area manager, I would take a lot more chances. I would try and, and instead of using baked beans, we would use Rhodes, because it was cheaper or whatever it was. And this is what we used to do. Okay? And when I knew they were coming, quickly, everything's in place. And this is what we got to do. But I can tell you now, when I had a great area manager, please, franchisees, doesn't matter how brilliant your support is, they're still going to take chances here and there. But when they believe that they're getting a lot more value from head office, and they've got somebody who supports them, and even with me, did I still take some chances? Yes. But a lot of the things where, that I thought about, I would stick to brand and I would do the right thing. And then what happens? I am making more money. So what happens? Head office is making more money. Head office is one of their biggest challenges are franchisees, especially disgruntled franchisees. But once you start upping that support, that coaching, helping them to become more successful in their business, they become more engaged. And what happens? The relationship is just on another level. And it freaks me out because you've got some brands that have got 200-300 stores, okay, and they've got compliance officers, and one area manager has got up to 40 stores. Now, how's that possible? And that's where I do believe franchising is also evolving.
On that point, you touched on, one area manager having to manage multiple resources, multiple sites. And, having the practical experience and overview of that, it also puts a somber mood amongst the franchisees in that region because they believe or they feel they are being neglected from that lack of resource input from the franchisor. And it comes down to accountability, not only from the franchisee, but also from the franchisor to ensure that all sites are operating as efficiently as possible with their relevant resources. As you're saying now, there are brilliant operators out there. And then there are operators that need that a little bit more attention. And how do you segregate the two if let's say we're looking at the Northwest, it's a massive province. You can have literally 100 sites. And you could, from that 100, you could have 20 underperforming stores.
Absolutely.
And how does one get to that when he still needs to, or she still needs to get to the stores that are doing well, to understand what are they doing right for head office to adopt nationwide to ensure that as a group they are collectively winning. And it's a conversation that is not often had from a franchise or franchisee perspective. And even so, it's something that needs to be reignited, I suppose. But again, it's how does Fasa ensure that message comes across through to the franchisors, through to our existing members, and ensure that, look, we are not just only looking out for the franchisor's best interest, but also the franchisee. Is one of the key topics or the key issues that we need to address. I see the aspects of funding and financing which are commonly raised across the board from franchising, and the question of unencumbered equity, where does it come in? And the reality of it is, guys, there needs to be skin in the game. And representing a financial institution myself, skin in the game doesn't necessarily mean financial. You know, it also comes down to what are you bringing to the table in terms of expertise? What are you bringing to the table in terms of suppliers? What are you bringing to the table in terms of infrastructure to ensure that this business model that is being awarded to the individual will be successful in their hands? But Giselle, Larry, I'd like to say thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the insights. Thank you for letting us know what is happening, what you guys are currently rolling out. I see we are currently out of time. I'm being signaled. I'm being told, Chief, it's time to run. But yeah, I really do appreciate the time, and I appreciate everyone's input and insights. Thank you very much. Please, guys, have some coffee, some tea, some snacks, and thank you for joining us today in the International World Franchising Day and giving us the opportunity to share what has changed and the updates within the sector. Thank you. If there are any questions or any comments or any potential...
We'll sit back down.
Any potential additional points that anyone would like to raise, I think the floor is open. We do have some of our panelists that are still in the building. Feel free to engage with them, share contacts, understand who they really are, and take the opportunity to learn something new, guys. I mean, it's Youth Month. It's all about growing, learning, and trying to do the most with the little that we have and expanding the network. But thank you for making the time today, guys, to join us. And those who are online, who stayed in through the entire course, I'd like to say thank you as well. I hope I didn't bore you too much. We tried our utmost best. But thank you so much, everyone.